Hi, everybody. My name is Drew McDonald. I'm enrolled in the Master's in Instructional Leadership program at UW. I am a sixth grade math teacher at Salmon Bay School, which is a K through 8 school in Ballard. This is my fourth year at that school, and I've taught sixth grade math every year. And I also teach an amazing sixth grade intervention math class called Empowerment Math. And previous to that, I also taught for 2 years at a 6 through 12 school in Oxford, England. So I have also taught high school. Let's see. Have I been coached or mentored in the past? Yes, I have. My first year, technically when I was doing my teacher training program, I worked at 3 different schools over the course of the school year, and each one I had a mentor. And I thought the experience was very positive for 2 of the cases. And I think mostly because the teachers really attended to where I was at in my learning. They were happy for me to kind of choose my own challenge, if that makes sense, about kind of knowing when I was ready to start kind of teaching whole classes or taking on a whole unit of work. And they were also really good at asking me sort of reflective questions to get me thinking about my practice. And then the third one I worked with, it wasn't like a bad experience, but it was sort of more like a hands-off experience, which maybe was maybe appropriate at the time, since it was my third placement, that they kind of checked in with me a little bit, but didn't really push me forward in my practice a whole lot. And then when I did my first year of teaching in England, I was paired up with the chair of my department, so the head of my mathematics department. And overall, that was a really good experience. His style was very much to never really evaluate anything that I did, and instead just ask questions just over and over and over again, so that I could make my own sort of decisions and choices. And his rationale behind that was that when you're a teacher and you're doing your day-to-day practice, you have to be self-reflective and you have to be sure of yourself, which doesn't mean not sure of yourself in the sense that, oh, I know that I'm doing the right thing, but in that you have a rationale for your instructional decisions and that you follow that rationale, because ultimately you're not going to have someone in your classroom every day telling you what to do and what not to do. And what to do and what not to do doesn't work in all contexts, right? It depends a lot on your students and your school and where your students are in their learning. So that was actually really valuable for me, sort of pushing me to become an independent teacher, even though that style is also a little frustrating. But then that's pretty much how I treat my students as well most of the time. I kind of avoid, unless we're just really practicing some really basic skills, I kind of avoid telling them if they're right or not. I like to make sure that they feel convinced that they're correct, or sort of ask them questions to help them understand why they might have gone wrong somewhere. Have I done any coaching or mentoring myself? I have done some. So my second year teaching in England, I actually worked with 3 different student teachers, although I wasn't like the lead mentor teacher for any of them, but we would frequently debrief lessons, and I would ask them questions about how they felt the lesson went, and areas of strength or weakness, and how I would also maybe sometimes just talk to them about their lesson plans, and their overall kind of goals for what they were wanting to get out of a lesson or out of a sequence of lessons. And I kind of tried to take that same sort of style that my first year mentor took with me, with trying to get them to think really critically about their practice. But I also kind of felt that as they were sort of training as teachers, that it also would be good for me to sort of give them options and say, well, you could try this, or, well, if I'm in that situation, I might do this. And then have them kind of maybe try that out the next day to see what effect that have, kind of like in an experimental sort of way. And so that was really valuable. I think for them, but also valuable for me because it forced me to think kind of more carefully about my own practice in the classroom. And then I didn't really have another experience until last year when I had a teacher from, or a training teacher from Antioch University in my classroom for, I'm trying to think how long it was. It was like 2 or 3 months. And they weren't really doing any teaching. They were more observing and working with small groups and kind of helping students individually and kind of learning about my whole process for, say, how I plan lessons or how I approach different challenges in the classroom. And so that was really valuable, but I would, like to take it to sort of another level at some point with working with, a trainee teacher in my classroom for a longer period of time who's actually teaching. So a colleague or a teaching friend I have in mind. I have two in mind.